and welcome to Rising. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got another excellent show for you today. Matt Taibbi, one of our favorite guests, is joining us to discuss the potential preemptive pardoning of various folks that is being contemplated by some in the Biden administration. And we'll be talking about lots of other very interesting subjects with Niall Stanage. Nice to see you.
A whole gamut of topics to talk about, Robby. Always a pleasure. Let's get started. Robby, what is on your radar?
Well, Luigi Mangione, the 26-year-old suspected killer of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, wrote a brief manifesto explaining his actions, and we now know what it says. That's because independent left journalist Ken Klippenstein obtained and published it on Substack. Now, Klippenstein is a frequent guest on our program. He notes that he is far from the only reporter to obtain the manifesto. Quote, major media outlets are also in possession of the document, but have refused to publish it and not even articulated a reason why, writes Klippenstein. My queries to the New York Times, CNN, and ABC to explain their rationale for withholding the manifesto while gladly quoting from it selectively have not been answered. Like Ken, I'd be very interested to hear the mainstream media's reasoning for withholding the manifesto. Now, it may be because they're worried about giving the alleged killer more publicity, which they fear, some have argued this, has a social contagion effect, inspiring copycat killers. That might not be completely unreasonable, and indeed I would also caution that we might not have very much to learn from a close reading of Mangione's political views, however well articulated they might be. Friends and family report that he suffered a disturbing psychological breakdown due perhaps to a back injury and the efforts to treat it, that he acted erratically and seemingly vanished from the face of the earth. He was reported missing by his mother. Now, pain can take a terrible toll on a person's mental health, and a person who is in the grips of a pain-related mental collapse is probably not a person whose ideology needs to be carefully studied. All that said, the idea that the media can simply keep silent about the manifesto and thus discourage interest in Luigi Mangione is obviously ridiculous. If you log onto social media, you'll see photos of him everywhere. He's very photogenic, that's part of it. You'll read people's thoughts about him. You'll see videos of him. In the internet age, it's simply impossible to stop people from talking about the things they want to talk about. The mainstream media wishes it still had the power to control and shut down the conversation, keep us away from subjects they don't want to discuss. But the reality is that's all over now. It ain't going to happen. Which means that people are free to speculate wildly about why Mangione allegedly gunned down the CEO of a major healthcare company. They are also free to speculate that there's something more to this story, and many are doing just that. The writer Walter Kern, for instance, posted that aspects of this story seem fake to him, and he's hardly the only one expressing that view. Social media is full of takes from people saying that Mangione is the fall guy or that he's been set up, that sort of thing. The mainstream media refusing to show you his manifesto isn't going to make those doubters go away. On the contrary, it's going to make people suspicious that the truth or something like it is being kept hidden from them. Well, not here on Rising. We're going to read the manifesto in full. It is mercifully short and concise. Here is what he wrote. To the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. This was fairly trivial, some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. The spiral notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife or traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder, the U.S. has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly number 42 in life expectancy. United is the largest company in the U.S. by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, and Walmart. It has grown and grown, but has our life expectancy? No. The reality is these have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because of the American public has allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have the space, and frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. But many have illuminated the corruption and greed, e.g. Rosenthal and more, decades ago, and the problems simply remain. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I am the first to face it with such brutal honesty." End quote. Now, while being escorted by police to his extradition hearing in Pennsylvania on Tuesday, Mangione said the following.
That's completely out of touch and an insult to the intelligence of the American people and lived experience.
So that is his stated explanation for his actions. As I said, it is a brief manifesto by the standards of deranged killers. And I do find it, like Ken, I don't really understand. Well, I should rephrase that. I understand generally what the rationale is for keeping these manifestos hidden. Media members figure that if we shower attention on people who commit these kinds of acts, we'll get more of them. There is some social psychology research to suggest that might be the case. The problem is, look at all this attention this guy's getting. Yeah. He's going to get attention. It just can't be stopped. And what I am seeing is a lot of rejection of official narratives about him even being responsible or involved, which I understand because official narratives are wrong sometimes. And this is a very weird situation. But my bottom line is I don't think the media is doing anyone any favors by holding this kind of stuff back. You can't stop people from talking about it. All you can do is create paranoia about what's going on.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I understand the theoretical reasons why manifestos are sometimes not published, but I don't think it really makes any sense in this particular case. Just to pick up on one phrase that you used there, speaking about it, you said, by it's succinct or short, by the standards of deranged killers. Now, setting aside the fact that this guy we think is going to plead not guilty, I'm not at all persuaded that he is in fact deranged. I mean, I think one of the issues with the manifesto is a lot of people would agree with what he says in that manifesto, which does not mean that they think he was right to allegedly go and shoot Brian Thompson in the back and ultimately kill him. I think that the interesting thing about the manifesto is how mainstream or widely held a lot of the views are. Whether Mr. Mangione ultimately is guilty or not, he's clearly an intelligent man. He has thought a lot about these things, and just even things like in the manifesto, the reminder that the US has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly 42nd in life expectancy. That's a completely mainstream critique of the US healthcare industry, of the health insurance industry, even referring to them as parasites. I think, frankly, a lot of people view the insurance industry as parasitical. Again, I don't want to get into the thing of expressing joy about anybody's killing or anything like that, but I think the beliefs outlined in the manifesto are held by a large number of people.
Certainly they are, and you're right, we can't just casually assert that people are necessarily crazy with that, that's going to be, if he pled crazy, then we bring out experts to evaluate him, that kind of thing. I mean, there's something about dropping off the face of the earth, suddenly not respond. Friends worried about him because he stopped responding to them, that he didn't show up for events he was supposed to go to. His mom reported him missing. There's some of this behavior that I associate with being unhinged or psychologically unwell. Maybe deranged is the wrong word. There's no evidence he's like seeing ghosts or something or communicating with people who aren't there. And pain, as I said in the radar, does make you do crazy things without being necessarily crazy. I mean, this happens to older people in our lives, or the people who are most likely to suffer from chronic pain, having good days and bad days where they're fully lucid, and bad days where they are crazy. This has happened to elder people I've known in my life who are totally nuts on days where they're just having a bad day. I wonder if that is going to be at the root of that, and that obviously could tie into the healthcare aspect.
No, it could. And when I was making taking issue with the word deranged, I mean, I don't know whether he has psychological issues or not, whether he suffered some kind of break following this back injury or not. My point is really that based upon the manifesto, those are not the views of a deranged person. To put it in even starker terms, I think what a lot of people have a problem with, if he is guilty, is that he shot the guy. It's not what he believes that led him to those actions. It's the action that most people have an objection to. Some do not, as we discussed here yesterday. People who take what I think we both consider inappropriate glee in someone's death.
Joyful,
etc. I mean, I'm not defending that at all, but I think the rationale that is offered in this manifesto is one that isn't even a left-wing viewpoint necessarily. It is a critical of the insurance industry and the healthcare system viewpoint, which is pretty widely shared.
Have you ever read a manifesto where the alleged killer says, admittedly, I don't know everything about this. I'm not an expert. People might know more. We have a humble alleged killer.
Yeah, no, I know. Highly unusual. It doesn't normally, I think killing normally leads or emanates from a more absolutist mindset.
Yes.
And, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, who knows?
Fascinating. Well, we will be discussing more details of this case a little bit later on the show. We'll be talking about what Joe Rogan had to say about it and lots more to come still on Rising. Stay tuned.